Martell Holt has always been surrounded by controversy, but this time, the storm isn't coming from online feuds or castmate shade, it's coming from home. The unexpected voice stirring the drama belongs to his mother, Martell Holt. And that changes everything. When the person who has defended you through every scandal finally admits she can't do it anymore, the blow cuts deeper than any headline ever could. That's exactly what viewers witnessed recently. Martell didn't raise her voice or lash out. She didn't deliver her message with anger, but with something far more powerful: resignation. Her tone carried that quiet fatigue that only comes when someone has reached their emotional limit. When love collides with disappointment and there's nothing left to protect. The calm in her voice wasn't indifference. It was the sound of a mother whose hope had finally run dry in the high-decibel world of reality television. Silence and composure are rare currencies. The louder someone yells, the more attention they get. That's the formula. But Martelle's calm broke through the noise differently. Her honesty landed harder than any shouting match or social media rant ever could. In that moment, she reminded viewers that sometimes, truth doesn't need volume, it needs conviction. For years, Martell Holt has treated accountability like a moving target, dodging it whenever it came too close. Fans have watched the same story unfold in endless variations: clashes with Melody Cherie, public displays of affection with Arionne Curry, fiery feuds with Marcia and Maurice Scott, each ending with Martell somehow positioning himself as the misunderstood hero of his own chaos. He has built a reputation for rewriting reality, for spinning his wrongs into justifications. But this time, that narrative unraveled at its core. Hearing his mother speak her truth didn't just sting, it stripped away the final layer of illusion. This wasn't an ex-wife venting out of frustration. It wasn't a castmate trying to score reality TV points. This was his mother, the woman who had raised him, defended him, and covered for him through years of scandal, saying aloud what the world had whispered for so long: enough is enough. And when a mother reaches that point, it's not about public image anymore, it's about moral reckoning. What made Martelle's words even more piercing was how she framed her perspective, not through anger, but through contrast. She compared the two women who have defined much of Martell's adult life, Melody and Arionne. In her eyes, Melody wasn't just a wife, she was the glue that held their family together when everything else was falling apart. Despite betrayal, humiliation, and heartbreak, she maintained stability for her children, their home, and even for Martell's public reputation at times. Melody carried the weight of love and loyalty long after it stopped being reciprocated. Arionne, on the other hand, represented the opposite. Martell didn't demonize her outright, but her choice of words made the sentiment clear. Arionne brought chaos, not comfort. Where Melody brought structure and strength, Arionne brought instability and drama. For a mother to publicly say that about the woman her son now shares his life with was more than criticism. It was a declaration of truth that could no longer be sugarcoated. Martell made it plain that she no longer stands behind Martell's current choices. Instead, she stands with honesty, even if it means standing alone. That moment marked a turning point not only in her relationship with her son, but also in how audiences perceive the entire Holt family dynamic. Viewers weren't just watching another reality TV confession, they were witnessing a generational reckoning, a mother drawing a line between love and accountability. Then came the detail that left fans speechless. Arionne, a woman with education, ambition, and a nursing degree, admitted that she needed Martell's permission to return to work. Not support, permission. It was a revelation that hit like a jolt, cutting through the glamour and gossip to expose something darker: control disguised as partnership. For years, Arionne has been portrayed as the other woman, the interloper, the one who knowingly entered a relationship with a married man. But in that moment, the narrative shifted. Viewers saw not just a woman complicit in chaos, but one consumed by it, a woman who had given up her independence and identity for the illusion of love. The image of a 30-something professional, trained to save lives, waiting for a man's approval to reclaim her career was haunting. That single confession did more damage to Martell's image than any scandal ever had. It wasn't just about Arionne's submission, it was about the psychology behind it, the power dynamics that thrive in silence. It made people question how deep Martell's need for control runs, and whether it has ever really been about love at all. Instead of seizing the moment to offer support or redemption, Martell made things worse. He mocked Arionne's career, belittling her income, and went as far as to insult the entire nursing profession by calling nurses dishonest. The irony was brutal. A man whose deceit had destroyed his marriage accusing others of lacking integrity. It was a moment so tone-deaf it bordered on tragic. What made the exchange even more heartbreaking was Marlene's face as it unfolded. She didn't scold him, she didn't interrupt. She simply looked at him, and in that look, decades of disappointment flashed by. It wasn't the gaze of a mother angry at her son. It was the look of someone mourning the man she raised versus the one he became. Her expression carried the grief of a woman realizing that all her efforts, all her defenses of him, had only enabled the very behavior she now despised in that silent moment. Viewers didn't just see a mother and son, they saw the tragedy of unlearned lessons and unhealed wounds. Quiet heartbreak also speaks to something larger. A pattern that extends beyond one family or one show. Her struggle reflects what so many mothers face when their children grow up into adults who make harmful choices. There comes a point where love can't be mistaken for enabling, where protecting becomes participation. Marlene's words and demeanor revealed a woman who finally chose boundaries over blind loyalty. It's also worth noting how her perspective elevates Melody's story from personal heartbreak to something universal. For years, Melody has been accused of dramatizing, of exaggerating, of turning her pain into a platform. But hearing Marlene echo her concerns validated everything she had endured. It showed that Melody's pain wasn't performative, it was real, systemic, and witnessed even by those closest to Martell. This revelation also opened a broader conversation about control and identity within relationships. Viewers began discussing how often successful, capable women lose themselves in toxic partnerships, not because they're weak, but because manipulation often hides behind charm and charisma. Arionne's experience became a cautionary tale of what happens when love becomes dependency, and autonomy fades into obedience. Martell's reaction, mocking, minimizing, deflecting, only reinforced that pattern. It wasn't about Arionne or Melody anymore. It was about him. About a man so trapped in ego that he couldn't recognize the humanity in the women around him. His obsession with dominance has cost him not only his marriage, but also his dignity. Meanwhile, Marlene's voice, quiet, measured, and filled with weary love, became the most powerful in the room. Her truth didn't just challenge Martell, it challenged the audience to reconsider what strength looks like. Sometimes, it's not in the shouting or the spectacle. Sometimes, it's in the courage to say, "I can't defend this anymore." In a show built on drama and deflection, Marlene's restraint was revolutionary. It forced everyone from fans to fellow castmates to see Martell not as a misunderstood reality star, but as a man facing the consequences of his own design. And for the first time in a long time, the most compelling storyline wasn't about scandal, it was about truth. Instead of offering support, Martell doubled down with mockery. He belittled her income and even went as far as to insult the nursing profession, claiming nurses are dishonest. The irony couldn't have been sharper, this coming from a man who spent years being unfaithful, fathered a child outside his marriage, and still had the nerve to question someone else's integrity. Marlene's face during that moment said more than words ever could. It wasn't anger, it was heartbreak. She looked like a woman mourning the family her son had destroyed with his own hands. Her pain became even more visible when the conversation turned to Maverick, Martell's youngest son. She clearly adores her grandson, but she can't separate him from the affair that tore everything apart. Each time she sees him, she's reminded of the betrayal and its lasting consequences. It's not resentment toward the child, it's grief for what could have been if Martell had made different choices. Watching a grandmother navigate love and sorrow simultaneously is raw and real. It's no longer just reality TV drama, it's life spilling beyond the cameras. Meanwhile, Melody has shown remarkable strength amid the chaos. While Martell fights battles online and in court, she's been building her career, raising her children, and maintaining her composure. Her silence has become her sharpest weapon. Every time she refuses to engage, Martell's unraveling becomes even more visible. Audiences can see the contrast now more clearly than ever. One ex is moving toward peace and growth, while the other seems determined to keep fighting old battles. Arionne Holt's candid comments shifted the entire narrative. Suddenly, everything Melody had been saying for years no longer sounds like bitterness. It sounds like truth. This isn't a he said she said situation anymore. It's Martell's own mother quietly affirming what many already suspected, and with that, the story takes on a new tone. What once looked like routine reality TV drama now feels like the unraveling of a long-standing pattern that even family members can't defend. In the world of love and marriage, Huntsville, revelations like this don't just disappear, they rewrite the script entirely, forcing Martell to face a reality that no spin can fix. The Scotts have always had a complicated bond with Martell, but their past frustrations now seem prophetic. When Maurice tried to reason with him, it came across as the kind of cautious wisdom only a friend could offer. Marcel, in his usual blunt fashion, took a more direct approach, calling Martell out in ways that once seemed like typical Huntsville banter. But looking back, those heated exchanges read less like arguments and more like warnings. The infamous roof argument at Destiny Payton's event wasn't just background noise for the cameras. It was an early glimpse of where Martell's unchecked pride would lead him. Kimmy, Scott's insight has also aged remarkably well. She's never been one for theatrics. Her power lies in quiet observation and measured words. When she commented on Martell's immaturity or his refusal to take responsibility, it didn't register as shade back then. Now, it sounds like truth spoken too early for others to hear. Kimmy saw the behavioral patterns, the blame shifting, the deflection, the emotional stagnation, long before they became obvious to everyone else. Her so-called comments were never digs. They were warnings wrapped in wisdom. Even Miss Wanda, often dismissed for her loud and unfiltered approach, has played a surprising role in revealing Martell's flaws. Her delivery may be dramatic, but beneath the theatrics, her blunt criticisms of his recklessness carry more weight today. What once made people laugh now makes them pause. When women as different as Wanda, Kimmy, and Marlene, each with their own personalities and loyalties, arrive at the same conclusion, it stops being gossip. It becomes evidence. Martell's behavior in court only intensified public concern. Being ordered to undergo counseling and a psychological evaluation isn't a casual recommendation. It's a judicial warning. Judges don't hand down such directives without serious cause. It was a chance for Martell to confront his issues and possibly change course. Yet he ignored it for 2 years. 2 full years without taking a single step toward accountability. That kind of neglect doesn't just seem careless. It borders on dangerous. It signals a man who sees himself as above rules, above help, and even above the emotional needs of his children. Meanwhile, Melody's path has gone in the opposite direction. She's done everything by the book, co-parenting with patience, maintaining her career, and keeping her peace intact. Even as Martell drags her into one legal battle after another, she refuses to let the chaos define her. Every filing feels less like a father fighting for his kids, and more like a man fighting to keep control of his ex-wife. Fans are starting to see the pattern. Martell's actions aren't driven by love or concern, they're driven by power. His custody battles look less like protection and more like possession. On social media, Martell presents a carefully curated facade. He posts cheerful photos with Maverick and Arionne, trying to sell the image of a stable, loving home. But behind that polished picture lies a different truth. He still takes subtle jabs at Melody online, attempting to paint her as the problem. It's a predictable cycle. Control disguised as care. Affection, masking manipulation. Over time, that contradiction has become exhausting for everyone involved, both on screen and off. The saddest part is how the children are beginning to see it, too. They're old enough now to recognize which parent brings calm and which one stirs chaos. Kids might not grasp the legal jargon, but they feel who nurtures peace and who drags them into turmoil. That silent awareness, the difference between emotional safety and instability, is what makes Martell's downward spiral all the more heartbreaking. Everyone sees it now, the audience, the cast, and, most painfully, his children. The truth no longer hides behind edits or confessionals. Destiny Payton has perhaps witnessed Martell's unraveling more closely than anyone else. She's seen the excuses, the deflections, and how he constantly surrounds himself with people who feed his ego instead of challenging it. Destiny hasn't always aligned with Melody, and she's had her own share of battles. But over time, her silence about Martell has grown deafening. When someone as outspoken as Destiny chooses quiet, it speaks volumes. The day she decides to break that silence, there will be no filters, no diplomacy, just truth. And that truth will sound something like this. Martell needs to grow up. He needs to stop letting pride and vanity steer his life and finally confront the reflection he's been avoiding. Producer Carlos King, known for crafting explosive reality TV moments, doesn't need to script anything this time. The story is unfolding naturally. A mother's honesty, an ex-wife's exhaustion, and a friend's warnings have created a raw, unfiltered collapse that no camera could fabricate. Carlos understands better than anyone that authentic emotion drives an audience. And Marlene's confession has handed him something no storyline could outdo. This is no longer entertainment. It's a slow-motion implosion that viewers can't look away from. Meanwhile, Arionne Curry finds herself under a microscope like never before. Some viewers pity her, a woman who gave up her independence and became trapped in a relationship that drained her spirit. Others see her as the author of her own downfall, someone who knowingly stepped into another woman's marriage and is now living out the consequences. Regardless of which side fans take, one truth rises above the debate. Her relationship with Martell is built on control, not love. What was once devotion now looks like dependency, and what once felt like partnership now resembles captivity. She traded her autonomy and professional promise for a man who has given her neither respect nor stability. The irony of Martell accusing nurses of dishonesty while having spent years deceiving his wife has become symbolic of his hypocrisy. Each time he calls someone else untrustworthy, fans are quick to remind him of his own record. The weight of his contradictions has become too heavy for even his supporters to carry. His reputation, once salvageable, now buckles under the weight of his own actions. At some point, denial simply stops working. For Melody, the contrast couldn't be more profound. Her calm, her dedication to her children, and her quiet focus on building a better future have transformed her into a portrait of grace under fire. While Martell wages emotional wars, Melody builds peace. She doesn't need to defend herself or trade insults. Her stability does the talking. Every business venture, every poised moment, every refusal to engage further separates her from the chaos she left behind. And at the center of it all are the children, the truest victims of this emotional battlefield. They may not understand legal filings or social media narratives, but they feel the difference between serenity and storm. They know which parent shields them and which one keeps pulling them back into conflict. That understanding, more than any court ruling, will define how they see love, respect, and responsibility in the years ahead. In the end, this isn't just about reality television anymore. It's about accountability, about what happens when a person refuses to evolve even as everyone around them pleads for change. Martell can keep shifting blame, but the evidence speaks louder than he ever could. His mother's heartbreak, his ex-wife's composure, his friends' warnings, and his children's quiet awareness all echo the same truth. The story has moved beyond control. The truth is out now, and no amount of spin will ever hide it again.